We don't like.
Okay, it is 7 o'clock, so we're gonna get started here so people can get out and enjoy the volleyball game if they can make it, or have other things. We'll call the regular school board, Independent School District 204 to order. We do have a quorum, all members are here tonight. If you'd like to address the board during public comment, there are comment cards at the back. If you get them to Ms. Peterson, Superintendent Thompson or myself before the public input. We'll have you sit down here and join us. With that, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is behind you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Thanks, Patrick. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Angie. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the agenda, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And we're on to communication. With us tonight, we have two new school board student reps, Abby Simons and Sydney Schubert. Thank you, ladies, for joining us and jumping right into the fire. We promised them no more than 15 minutes each, but we're pretty easy here. So thanks for joining us. Anything you have for us, we take.
All right, so hello board members, I'm Sydney Schubert.
And I'm Abby Simons.
And it's great to see everyone again. So here's our first board report of the year. First and foremost, we have the sports update. All of our sports teams have been performing very well, and our school spirit has been really high to kick off the school year. The attendance and support of the student body at every single game has been awesome, and Common Pride Department has been super helpful in organizing and planning games and leagues.
So football is 3-1, volleyball is 12-2, girls soccer is 6-1-3, and boys soccer is 4-4-3. And so this week is homecoming week, as you all know, and the students are super excited for the Common Pride and all week long for participating in the dress-up days and the different school events that we have.
So for dress-up days this year, today we had Route Fit, and then tomorrow we have Barbie and Ken Day, which is pretty much just inspired by the recently released Barbie movie. And then on Wednesday we have class colors, which obviously includes the long-held tradition of togas for seniors. And then on Thursday we have Gym Bro versus Pilates Princess. And then on Friday we have Common Pride.
This year we carried on our newly founded tradition of powder puff flag football, which will be held after the girls soccer game. And then we also have the powder puff volleyball game, which will be after the volleyball game tonight.
And then on Friday, we have the typical homecoming day schedule of coronation, the parade, the pet fest, and the girls volleyball game at 1, all followed by tailgating and football at nighttime.
And then Saturday, we will be having our semi-formal homecoming dance in the high school from 8 to 11, which will be a ton of fun again.
And then 2 weeks ago, to kick off the year, many seniors took part in our annual senior class photo on the turf. And we also held a senior sunrise that Friday before school, which included donuts provided by the senior class officers. And the seniors are a really great group of leaders this year, and we are all very excited for the year to come.
So yeah, that's pretty much all we have so far. So thank you, and that pretty much concludes what we have so far.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming in. Any questions? Tonight?
I have a question. What's the senior sunrise?
So it's kind of just like a yearly thing we have for seniors. We all kind of get up at 6 a.m., which is actually, I got up at 5:30 to be the turf at 6. And then we all just kind of watch the sunrise together just to like kick off the school year. And this year we got donuts, which is really awesome too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because there's on, I don't know.
How do you think the freshmen are acclimating to the school this year?
So we're both Lake crew leaders, so we kind of led a lot of freshmen at the beginning of the year, and I honestly feel like they're doing pretty well. They seem a lot more confident in themselves than I was as a freshman, obviously, but like I feel like they're doing pretty well. I think we have a lot of really good resources to help them out, and
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, I mean, I have a younger brother that's a freshman, and so like I get to see him and his friends in the hallway, and like they say hi to me before I can even say hi to them. So it's nice that they're more outgoing than kind of what I've expected.
Awesome, that's great.
Excited for the new quick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting it up fast too.
Yeah.
Flow is going to win best flow in this incoming grade.
Definitely the senior.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
They say it's going to be good. They'll start, an hour before the break.
Oh, don't stress, we got it going.
I have inside information to believe that it's already in progress.
Yeah.
It's usually a setup. Those seniors win no matter what.
I mean, we better, so.
Do you have any competitions against other classes? Yeah, what's the tug of, like the tug of war or, they have table races, is that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, so for our Pet Fest, I don't know for sure like what all of our activities are, but that was one of the ones that we brought up to do again because that was really fun last year when we did it. And then I also brought up like dodgeball for like staff versus students. I don't know if that's going for sure, but I thought that would be kind of fun. So, yeah. I think it would be pretty fun.
The table races is very interesting.
Oh my God. That was so fun.
Anything else before we let them go? All right, well, thank you, made it through your first board meeting.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great week, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, and with that, we're on the 3.2 bond refunding pre-sale report. Mr. Seeley is here. If you join us now at the table, and share with us potential savings for our community. So, thank you. The floor is yours.
Is that? Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a little while since I've been here. So let's talk, an opportunity for you to save some funds for the taxpayers. Twice a year, we review your debt and determine whether there's any opportunity to save money by refinancing or in municipal terms, refunding the bonds. So you have a bond with a call date coming up February 1, 2024. Call date simply means that is the opportunity or the time identified when you issued the bonds, which you can refinance them or refund. So we are looking at about $20.7 million issuing the bonds. The new bonds would pay the old bonds off for a savings for taxpayers. So we have the pre-sale report that we provided. This is not the best market right now for refinancing and savings. So what we did is we took a look at this particular bond since the call date was coming up, and we identified those maturities or principal payments that would add to the savings, and we identified those that either didn't save money or deteriorated the savings by including them. So we're actually refunding only part of the 2021 bond. So we will be refunding and each principal payment or maturity we looked at separately. So we'll be refunding the 2026 principal payment, the 31, 32, 33, and 34, and then the 37. So that means the 2025 maturities, the 27, 28, 29, 35, and 36 did not add to the savings or actually worked against the savings. So those bonds will still be outstanding. Those principal payments for the old bond will still be outstanding. Generally, we refund the whole thing because all the maturities make sense. But given that these were issued in an era where the rates were really low and rates have come up, only certain maturities are panning out, if you will. So there will be an opportunity, those old bonds, those are callable at any time. So let's say rates drop a year or two from now, you might have an opportunity to refund those. You probably aren't going to get a ton of savings unless rates really drop a lot, but those are still out there and they're callable at any time at this point. So we're estimating savings about $390,000 on the maturities that we have identified. And we have a lot of bonds with school districts that have a 2-1 call date, and very few are working out and generating any savings. This happens to be one. Your neighbor's Byron, I was there last week. They happen to be one also. But again, we're picking certain maturities to make them work. With that, the new bonds will be 13 years in length, and they will have a call date of February 1, 2031. So you'll have an opportunity to refund them at that point too, if rates dictate that you could save money. With the refunding, you will be enrolling in the state credit enhancement program, and that's part of what the resolution is that you'll be adopting tonight. That resolution authorizes us to move ahead with the refunding and enrolls you in the state credit enhancement program. That results in better rates for the district. That's the program where the state would step in should there be any default. So it lowers the risk to investors, carries its own rating, and results in lower interest rates because of the lowering of the risk factor. So we will get this rated. Standard & Poor's, we've had all your bonds rated by them. You currently have a AA-, which is an excellent rating on your existing bonds. We'll do a competitive bid sale. So on the morning that of your October board meeting, we will actually take bids that morning, bring the results to you, and then you will pass a resolution that awards the sale of the bonds at that point. So the schedule is tonight, this is the authorizing resolution. And we'll put together the official statement. We'll be collecting a lot of information from Bob. The official statement is a large document that the investors use to determine whether they want to buy the bonds. We'll go for a rating on October 11th and then get that about a week later. October 23rd is the morning. We'll take the bids, bring it to you guys, and then November 15th is the closing date. That's when the funds actually are received for the refunding. Now, the one caveat on this, because rates are volatile and they're kind of bouncing around, and this is very sensitive to rate fluctuation. Rates go down, you'll save more. If rates go up, you'll save less. Now, there could be a point in time if rates go up enough that deteriorates savings. That's not what you're doing. The only risk that you have is if we get through the rating, because the rating agency has about a $25,000 fee. So that is a risk. We won't, the bond attorney isn't going to charge you if this is postponed or canceled. We aren't going to charge it. Rating agency, we have no control over. They will charge if you go through the rating. So we're going to look at this probably a day or two before the rating, see if it still makes sense. And generally, we never even have that conversation because over the past 10 years, rates have been very low and coming down. So they all worked out. We're in a little different rate environment right now. So I just want you to be aware of the one risk factor that you do have. If you get through the rating and between that date and when you sell the bonds, there's about 2 weeks there. If rates go up to the point where we cancel it, you would owe that rating fee. So looking at, I included schedules in here. I'm just going to point out a few things. Page 7, that's a projected new debt structure. It matches the old, so where you see the lower numbers, the old ones were the lower numbers as far as the principal. The priors on page 8, those are all your debt payments on the old bonds. Once we refund it, page 9 shows the total refunded debt. So those are the maturities that I mentioned. You can see there's a much smaller one in 26 and then larger maturities in 33, 34, and 37 that we're refunding. Page 10 shows the old bonds, what's outstanding, what we are not refunding that you'll continue to pay on, and maybe there'll be an opportunity to refund those. The bottom line is page 11. You can see right now we're estimating about $389,000 worth of savings on this refunding. So it's like I said, most of these are not working out, so it's nice to find a few, but because of the situation, they're really sensitive to the rate changes right now. You know, rates go up, that could drop to the point where we might be calling Bob saying, let's either postpone it. You already have the authorization, so it's easy enough to postpone the sale, move it back, and we'll monitor it to see what happens. And that rating will be good for probably 6 months. After that, the rating agency may not hold the rating. So if we postpone as opposed to totally cancel it, you would have to go through that rating process anyway. It's already done. So again, the resolution is authorizing resolution. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I just have one question.
Mhm.
The 389,000, is that before or after all fees?
After. Yep.
And the call date is
2/1, but the call date's 2/1, but we can actually take the bid on October 23rd.
Yes, the law says you have to close no sooner than 90 days prior to the call date. So 90 days is somewhere around November 4th or 7th. You can take the bids, lock in the rates, and the closing, which is actually when the transaction is completed and the money is transferred, will happen in November after that 90-day window, or in that 90-day window. So we're on the early end of it, which was kind of by design because of the volatility of rates. We thought moving faster might secure better savings than waiting. I guess that's the theory. And it's a good theory. It's based on experience, but again, rates are bouncing around quite a bit, so.
Have you done the math to identify how much the rates would have to move before it went for us to recognize that savings of approximately $389,000?
Yes, we did, and if it went up about 20 basis points, or 1/5%, you'd probably be down $100,000 savings. So you're probably talking about 1/3% would wipe out all the savings.
That's crazy.
I know, it is. This one is extremely sensitive, or any of them that are working are very sensitive to rate fluctuation right now.
How flexible is this program if it does decrease? Are there any of the ones that we're not renewing, like close enough to where they can join?
What we would do is, these are the ones that, unless rates decrease significantly, we would not have those in. Once we start moving ahead and we rule those out and we get so far in the process, it would be hard to bring them back in. However, if rates decrease and they continue to decrease, 6 months from now, refunding the rest of those might look like a good option. The reason we're bringing these forward is because you have that call date. So if you hit that call date and you don't refund, you're basically choosing to pay the old rates, which is more than what you would if the refunding works out and you do it now. So.
Would that rating still be valid for the 6 months, even if we go through this entire process for these ones? Should the rates continue to decrease?
The rating, S&P or Moody's, doesn't matter, they will charge you each time you issue bonds. So even if 3 months from now, all of a sudden you did the rest of them, they would say you need a new rating. They will not give you the old rating.
Anything from your perspective?
Well, the only question I was gonna ask you was, is there a point where you would say we shouldn't do it? I mean, obviously, if it goes more than a
Yeah.
one, but I mean, is there somewhere between that?
Yeah, some people might say if you save anything, then it's better than paying the old rates. That's one theory. I think if this thing gets cut down to, 100, 125, I think you may be better off. You may never save that. You may never refund it, but you might be better off holding on to it in case there is that dip in rates that you might bump this back up at that point. So it's a tough call because I know I've talked to some of my teammates because I have 4 of these that are right on the edge and I'm like, what do you guys think? And I'm getting, most opinions are if they save any money, they should do it. But I'm not sure if that drops to the point where it's really kind of minimal, that you should use up the opportunity on these. But then the risk, of course, is that you may never grab that, say, 100,000. You may never get that savings. So both are valid points.
So if we don't do it now, we can do the refunding at any point because we've reached that 10-year point, correct?
Because you've come up to that call date, they're all callable at any point after the 90-day prior. So as of like November 7th, they're all callable beginning with the 2/1 maturity.
But if we choose to refund now, we can't do that for another 10 years then.
Oh,
Yeah.
on these, correct, I think it's an 8-year call, so 8 years from now.
2031.
Yeah.
See it then.
And it'd be for 32 maturity, so that would be the first one. So now until 32. We would do it in 31, but for the 32 maturity. Yeah, correct.
Where
Yeah,
At
so
what
if we do,
point-
yeah,
at what
exactly.
point do you-
So if we don't do it now, but futures are looking like in 2025.
Right.
Basis points, everything else are gonna come down. As a whole, maybe it's probably a better option at that point for districts.
That's the tough call with this because, you know, you're, by doing it now, you're giving them the opportunity to do it if rates come down, at least for those maturities that we are. That does preserve some of your savings with the maturities we removed. So it's kind of a balance the way we set it up. The problem is nobody knows in 25 or 26 whether this will work out. And, you know, if you give up 300 or 400 grand in savings now versus 100 grand, you might look at it differently and say, we should have done it, we should have done it, you know, because there is a difference in that. But if you start getting down into that, I'm not, again, there's theories that you do it anyway, but I'm not sure if I would go ahead at 100 grand or 125 and say,
Hypothetically, if the basis points drop 200 points in 2025, would we be moving forward?
with all of them, yes.
No,
But all the maturities.
We would wait at that point, right? We would wait now and do it later.
Yes, so if this isn't something you want to pursue at this point, you know, again, we're gonna look at it again, Bob and I will have conversation before we undergo the rating. But if just looking at this, the 390,000 isn't sufficient, then you shouldn't move ahead because these will, if rates drop, they're likely to save more money at some point in the future, but they may never get down to that point.
And by voting tonight, we're not actually taking any action or incurring that $25,000 fee. This is just.
You're authorizing us to incur that fee, and we have that scheduled for October 11th. So it's coming up in a few weeks, so we'll take another look at it. But between October 11th and the sale, the 23rd, that's when you've incurred the fee and you're subject, you know, rates could change. You've already incurred that fee.
We could come back at our next board meeting, right? If.
You could, yes. Yeah, in fact, this large increase in rates started about over 2 years ago. And last year I had 4 refundings that at this point, you know, 90 days prior that we scheduled around this time, I had 4 refundings that didn't work at all. And then come January, I was calling them saying, let's do this, because we saw a dip in January, just enough And just long enough, we got those refundings in, those 4. It makes it hard because of the volatility of the market, but those worked out. But again, it was because we moved fast on them. That window closed fast too, last year.
When is the next board work session? So next week.
Second, we had to move it because there was a conflict on the night.
And by authorizing it tonight, I mean, we're gonna start the process, but it can be canceled. And with the caveat of the rating, stuff. It can be canceled. You don't have to go through it with it in October. If at all possible, you cancel before October 11th. So if you have a work session and, you know, it's something that, you know, I can give Bob an update before the work session and tell you how it's looking at that point, or committee or whatever you guys were referring to.
I think we waited to see what things look like around the 9th or 10th. And I think you passed the resolution. And then if on the 9th or 10th, it looks favorable to still garner the 390, close to 400,000, we can move forward. If that looks kind of shaky, that things might change by the 23rd or the 24th. And I think maybe we say, let's hold off and if another dip comes in January.
Yep. Yeah,
I know that's not really giving you a definitive answer, but.
But it means we should pass the resolution tonight to at least give the opportunity to make a decision and as we get closer to the actual date.
If you pass the resolution, we can move this ahead forward if we have a small window. Of course, you never know if it's a small window if you see a dip. You don't know if that's going to be 3 days or 3 months in rates. But if you don't pass the resolution, then we have to come back with an authorizing. So that will add, that's 2 board meetings, authorizing and sale. If you pass the resolution, then we only have 1 board meeting to deal with. We just have to deal with whether or not it makes sense before we pay for the rate.
To ask this question, with the elections coming up, do you see any kind of movement one way or the other with the elections coming up?
You know, that's an interesting question because a lot of people, I think, believe that they'll see rate changes depending on, and assuming you're talking 24 elections, presidential. But the reality is the financial market is basically been very, very stable for many years. It's volatile now mainly because of the rate adjustments to deal with inflation. You know, the concept being if you cool the economy down by increasing rates, you're going to reduce inflation. So the Federal Reserve has been increasing their rates fairly dramatically, at least dramatically in the near history. You go back further, rates were higher, but all because of inflation. Now, if we didn't see the inflation, even though we saw turnovers in who the president was and so forth, we probably wouldn't be seeing these types of rate volatility or increases. So part of it is more of the economy, what's happening with the economy, and maybe less who the one person in charge of everything is. Because the market seems to be strong depending on who's, it doesn't really matter who's in there. It matters more what's happening with the economy.
The question is, we've got to get cool enough over this year, the Federal Reserve and its
They just had a meeting, they didn't increase it, but they're threatening to increase it next time. And now they've been increasing by percent or 25 basis point, where they were doing 50. So,
Anything else for Jeff tonight?
Thank you for helping me understand.
Yeah,
Sure.
just like very thoroughly, thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Very much.
Right? Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move on to 3.3, spring data presentation. Ashley's going to sit down and share with us. Thank you, Ashley. Thanks for putting all this information together, your team. And I think,
Lindsay says the fix is at the very top of something in the back, which you can't. Oh, yeah. Okay, big ladder. No. I'll just do it again.
All right, good evening, everyone. I sent a presentation to you ahead of time, so kind of my goal and hope for this evening is that this is not a 2-hour presentation like we've done in years past. I would love to take questions from you about what you were able to review. I do want to kick it off with, as far as instruction, and why we do the MCA testing, right? That is our way that our state really assesses our outcomes of teaching the standards to students. And I was at a conference this weekend where Dr. Brenda Casalius, who used to be the commissioner of education here in Minnesota, then went to Boston to be superintendent. She really spoke to us about what makes schools successful. And she talked about blue ribbon schools where they're closing those achievement gaps between subgroups. And she said 3 of the biggest factors are 1, leadership, right? That instructional leadership, that principal, leading the charge really matters. The second one is culture. Do schools feel like a family for both staff and students? And the third one was standards-based instruction, that we are following the standards and teaching those to our kids because it really provides that scope and sequence so students can progress through our system without these skill gaps, right? Because if we're not following those at grade level, then we're just throwing things at them and hoping it sticks. And there's no real progression as they move through our systems K-12. So with that being said, I'm really proud of the work that our teachers and our students put in this last school year. We saw significant growth in a lot of areas. We always know there's room for more growth, but I was just really, really proud. I know the teachers dug in. They worked really hard. They teamed together. Students showed up, especially at the high school, and they put in their best effort so we could really see where they were at on the standard-based instruction we've been providing. So with that, we took the MCA test again this year in the spring. You can just kind of see when that was implemented. On the next slide, you can see that we have a bunch of new standards coming around here shortly. Just with COVID, everything kind of got pushed back. So a lot of these things are happening at once, and I feel like we've been talking about the same new standards for years now, but we're finally implementing them. We've got Science MCA is coming up first there in 24-25. So we're in really good shape as far as curriculum. We have new 6-8 science curriculum that we purchased, and that is going really well. We're looking at 9th grade this year, just supplementing some things. They don't want a full curriculum. They feel good about the resources we have, maybe just some supplemental pieces. In 9th grade, that's a new Earth and Space course that they'll be teaching. And then with reading, we're in also good shape with our curriculums there. Math, we have new 6-8 math curriculum. We purchased 6th and 7-8 as a pilot this year. And we've got a lot of new people in the middle school math department. So they're doing some really great things with teaming and leadership there. It's very exciting. I will take some of your questions if you want to go maybe to the last slide first, where I can kind of provide to you the overview of what we saw. But the 2 pieces of information for each grade level and content area that you're seeing is the comparison to the 15 alike districts and how we've moved through our system in the last 10 years as far as ranking in those 15 alike districts with similar sizes and demographics. And then the other piece I put in there was just so you could follow that cohort of kids as they move through our system. So you're able to see both of those 2 pieces. I'll start with the high school, but stop me at any time. Great success at the high school with standards-based instruction. We implemented the new intervention program using both MCA and NWA data, and we're able to just put kids in intervention services during their advisory time to meet with teachers to basically provide skill gap instruction.
That was a work in progress last year. We put kids on some programming to help them, and the response from kids and staff was, let's try something else. And so we have a new program called Exact Path this year that will do that individualized assessment for students and instruction with that teacher support. So using that NWA data that connects right to that program to help identify where kids are missing, like those grade level skills that they need. So that's moving forward, but as you can see, we had a lot of growth in both areas, especially if you look at that math growth. We're in really great shape and we're just really proud of that success. So we're going to continue with that. We're going to wrap around science a little bit more this year. We've definitely wrapped around math and reading at high school. And so now it's science's turn in there. They're very excited for that, and they have a lot of ideas about how they can support students, even how we can change that testing day for the 10th grade science students. They did their reading and their science test on the same day. So we are looking to change that so that we don't have that testing fatigue in the afternoon.
Actually, when they do those, it's called an exact path. Will that still be doing that during that bridge or advisory time?
Yes, it will be during bridge or advisory time. We have more teachers doing it this year, so we're kind of evening that out amongst the staff so that they're all getting a smaller group of students to work with. And it will be so that they also have room in their schedule to do like meeting with a teacher for coursework too. So it's not every day, right? We can't burn kids out that way too. So, yes, during the advisory time. At the middle school, we really saw steady growth across the board in all subject areas. Especially proud of the work in some of our language arts classrooms. You can really see that we made some great growth in areas. I think 8th grade was way at the top there among all those aligned districts. We're really proud of that. Really close to that 75% goal in both a few grade levels there as well. So we're going to really continue to focus on math, 5-6 math teaming, 7-8 math teaming. We have a lot of new people in those role this year within curriculum. And as always, I kind of talked to you about those dip areas that we see across the state, but 7th grade is one where we see a 10% drop historically in language arts across the board. Just that rigor in the standards goes up. So we're going to continue to try to problem solve that, but that's something we're seeing statewide. So we're just very aware of that. And again, not quite at 75, and we're still, maintaining that's the growth that's the proficiency we want to see for our students. We think we can totally get there. So it's exciting. Elementary school, we continue to see really great success in our math classrooms as assessed in grades 3 and 4 with the MCA. We are really leaning into one of our teacher leaders this year who has just great knowledge of the curriculum and uses data every day. So Michael Meeker is really teaching full time, but also doing some math coach work for us as an instructional coach. He did all of the onboarding for our math curriculum at the elementary school, all of our new teachers. He's also providing PD on the January and February staff development days in those areas to really help our K-2 teachers use those instructional practices that he's finding so much success with in his classroom. So we're very grateful to his leadership in that capacity. And whenever we have other schools that are coming to look at the curriculum and look at our teachers teaching, he's the first one to volunteer, right? He's got people in his classroom who's already doing all that great work. So I just want to make sure that we're tapping into his leadership and compensating him for that. Literacy is going to be a continued focus area for us. Again, we still want to hit that 75% for our little learners down there. A lot of new pieces in place. We had new curriculum there. I think we've got a lot of great people on the right staff this year as far as team. We've got a lot of new staff down there that we are really digging into and supporting. So there's going to be a lot more to come from the state with the READ Act that passed through legislation. And the requirement for that is really a lot of professional development for our teachers. They've posted the 3 options for PD that's required and funded by the state. Letters being one of those options, which we've started with, and I would like to continue to use the same professional development for consistency's sake. However, I don't know how MDE will or probably will not be compensating our teachers for their time. So that's something we're going to have to be looking at with our professional development budget moving forward, is if they're engaged in this professional development, how we compensate that. And that's what we did when we had teachers do letters this last time. So I just want you to be aware that that's coming and we're taking a peek at moving forward. But again, lots to celebrate this last year, and we just want to keep moving forward, but I want to make sure that we honor the celebrations and all the growth that we've had too this last school year. So, I just threw a lot at you, but I'm happy to take questions that you have for me.
First of all, incredible growth. Great year. Coming off a couple of tough years, post-COVID, during COVID. I think the creativity around it and the effort that was innovative. A lot of things that'll help us going forward. I don't always say that. It's easy to say.
No, it was really, really great to see the improvements and stuff across the board. Is there, looking across the science spectrum, good things,
Yeah.
And high school and stuff, is there something different between 5 and 8 or 8 in high school that there's this continual,
Sure. I mean, we do have 3 separate curriculums, but yeah, the standards have shifted there and they're very different than they were before. And so it's really, we've done some training around it, we've done some shared training, but it's really just, we've taken this, the 8th grade didn't have a new curriculum, that's new this year, so we're hoping to align that a little bit better to the standards. And then 10th grade, I think some practices as far as assessment within the classroom that will help students answer those same similar questions on the MCA is something that we're looking at. We did do MCA prep in both the reading and the math and didn't do it for science last year, so that's something we're really looking at. And even the difference in the ECT with the way the questions are asked, it's like a test taking skill that we just really need to make sure that we're helping kids with. I think there's a lot of great, instruction that's happening. It's just making sure that it's aligned to the standards and with some new courses and shifting of teachers teaching different things because of licensure areas, we've just got some work there to do still, but we're definitely engaged in that this year. We're having a science department meeting with the counselors to really look at how we make these changes moving forward for that department, so. Yes.
No, I just also wanted to say thank you for acknowledging that you took what was learned last year and that it wasn't maybe right on for students or staff and we pivoted it this year. And I think it's important to say we tried it, it worked, but it wasn't 100%. We're going to keep tweaking it and taking that as a stepping stone as a really positive thing. So thank you for trying.
Yeah, and that's my department too. I think my TLCs are very receptive to what teachers are living day to day in those classrooms, and they know when something is working. Also, a shout out to the PLC leaders at the high school because they are just really great about giving feedback, and I think we, in partnership with our department, just have a really good relationship where they're able to be like, this is not realistic, like you're a little up here right now, bring it back to the classroom, and this is what we need to do. So really, PLC leaders at the high school are a great sounding board, and we team really well together.
I was just going to say too, it's evidence of great teamwork and the incredible job all of the teachers have done to get these grades so high. It's really impressive.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Anything else? All right, with that, we'll move on to 3.5, I'm sorry, 3.4, staff development and audit.
Yes. So I sent out the last year's staff development budget and made a couple updates to just make the categories make sense so that you can compare last year's budget to this year's. So you can just see as far as what categories we're spending and you're able to do that year-to-year comparison. But we have a lot of great things planned. As you know, in the spring, we always give a survey to our teachers to ask them about what they would like professional development in for the following school year, and we base our offerings off of that. I bring that to the district staff development committee in the spring, and we kind of make a rough plan and a rough budget, and they vote on that moving forward. But then I'm also always just tweaking based on things that come in or based on like requirements from the state that are coming at us. And so we've made the plan for this school year. In August, we provided professional development on behavior functions and de-escalation with Morgan Cody from Zed. She was phenomenal. She presented to each of the different buildings separately to kind of give that spin on that grade band of kids they're working with. And so great feedback on that. We also had all of our paraprofessionals trained in that also. Also on that August 21st date, we did provide 6 hours of training for paraprofessionals. That's part of the new state statute that they are required to have 6 hours before working with kids, and then a total of 8 over the school year. So we made sure that we were meeting that requirement as well. And then our first day is coming up here quickly. So in October, the community education building has opted into doing 11 logic training, and Jenny is really taking the lead on that, so thank you to Jenny. And then the big piece that we're super excited about is responsibility centered discipline was one of the survey pieces that came back that teachers wanted. And so the author is actually coming in, Larry Thompson, who is just phenomenal. He was at the elementary principal conference a couple of years ago and we heard him speak, got his book right away, and we just think it's great ownership strategies for kids. So we are gonna work on that, and it's not kind of a one and done. It's going to be, we're gonna get trained in it, and then we're going to see how it fits in with the systems that we already have as far as discipline and PBAS and those things. So it's gonna be really a team working on that piece after the training is coming out. But we also have, in addition to our elementary teachers, we're gonna have all of our special ed teachers and all of our social workers and counselors engaged in that piece. And then at the high school, it's really going to be more choose your own. We've got standards implementation and then some choice sessions on English language learning opportunities and strategies for those kids, because that we have a recent increase in that population here. Some AI and more of our strengths finder PD. January is really the staff wellness focus. I reached out on social media and I had a bunch of volunteers, which was so sweet from the community to come in and to lead different sessions. So I'm very excited about those offerings on health and wellness for our staff. As part of our partnership, if you remember, we got that $10,000 Code.org grant last year. Because of that, we have some cool opportunities. Code Savvy, which is kind of a co-partner of theirs, reached out to us about a pilot program of K-4 coding at the elementary school. So we are one of 3 schools in the state that are piloting that right now. And Jake Schmidt at the elementary school in Tech is working with Sarah Darbo to figure out how to offer some of that. And they worked together this summer, made a little scope and sequence, and are teaming on some of that instruction at the elementary school. So part of that is Jake went to training this summer through Code Savvy, and then is now going to be offering PD to our teachers about how to implement in their classrooms some of that coding and technology piece. So he will do some PD on that. And then license renewal options that we always like to provide. In February, we have nature-based training with Jeffers as a free opportunity with our success in kindergarten and offering some early learning opportunities in there. Our staff was like, bring these people and how do we like make this work for more of us? So they'll be coming in training on that. And a little bit more this February data, we'll have our teachers to showcase all the things that they're doing in the classroom. We have some volunteers that are going to share their strategies that they're doing in the classroom. We always like to pay our teachers for that time when they present back to us. So as you can see on the budget, we've got a lot of fun things planned this year. So any questions that you have about staff development, I will try my best to answer.
Thank you very much.
Must have talked too much, sorry. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate all your time and efforts that you put into this. It makes a big difference. Thank you.
Okay, so we're on to 3.5, consider approval for the resolution for acceptance of gifts. Take that.
I, Angie Richards, introduced the following resolution to accept and move for the resolution for acceptance of gifts and grants. Whereas Smiling Moose has generously offered to donate $185 in gift cards to new staff. Whereas Kasson Laser Graphics has generously offered to donate $370 in gift cards to new staff.
Whereas KMES PTA has generously offered to donate $714.70 to KM student activities. Whereas People's Energy Co-op has generously offered to donate $500 to KM community education. Whereas St. John's Lutheran Church Walka has generously offered to donate $250 to Healthy Snack Cart scholarships and $250 to the KMHS Comet Pantry. Whereas Lewis Sports Foundation has generously offered to donate $500 to KM schools. Whereas Carl and Sylvia Rose has generously offered to donate $4,000 to KM schools. Whereas Becky Harrisine has generously offered to donate women's dress shoes valued at $60 to the KM drama program. Whereas American Legion 333 has Magnolia Steel, Tammy's Place, Stevenson Insurance, WSE Engineering Services, Kasson Dental, Events by Soccer, Lifetime Eye Care of Rochester, On-Site Computers, Leff Electric, Knutson Plumbing, and Hy-Vee have generously offered to donate $150 each to KM activities for broadcasting.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Amy. Any discussion on the again, the community comes together and supports this district incredibly well. So we thank them again for that. We have a motion, a second. All in favor of approval of the resolution for acceptance of gifts and grants for that?
Aye.
Hold the same sign. The motion carries. And we are going to board committee reports. Land facilities.
The Land Facilities Committee was able to meet here last week on the 19th. We discussed the construction tech house, that was built this last year by the students, finished in May, and it's been up for sale all summer, and we have an offer now. The offer is contingent on the sale of the buyer's home. It's the listing price and everything, or the sale, or the listing price right now is for $499. We have an offer for $490 with some additional asks from the buyers and stuff for probably roughly about $10,000. So currently, right now, as we said, we do have a current offer. It is contingent on the home. If it is open for other offers, so if there was another offer and everything else available, we would be able to look at that. But the current buyers would have 3 days then to finalize the standing offer right now. So that's where we're at with that. We got an update on the district office entrance, which has been kind of working through here for the summer. Currently, right now, there's a majority of the work and everything else is done. The doors and stuff have been installed. The doors actually were installed in the old color and not the actual new aluminum color. So it's something that we'll continue to work through right now and see where this goes. There's additional work as far as tile work and stuff that also needs to be finished up on the west wall and repaired as well. JJ had anticipated that would be done over MEA weekend. And then there's some facial work outside the district office that also needs to be completed. And looking at maybe some district office signage there so that everyone that's coming to the district office knows what door essentially to come to instead of always through the high school office. Last but not least, we just also kind of discussed a little bit with Dr. Thompson and talked to us about the middle school and plumbing issue. So that essentially has all been repaired. All the repairs are done except for finishing up the tile floor, which looks like tentatively over MEA weekend as well. That'll be completed. Previously, we talked about adding additional signage on the other side of the Performing Arts Center that says Kasson-Mantorville schools as well. They can see from the north side. The installation part of it, we had to get some additional bids as far as the scaffolding and stuff, and that actually almost doubled the whole entire cost of the project. So that has been canceled this time. So that's all I have.
Anything under land use? Then we'll move to personnel. Anything for us on personnel? So we'll move on to finance. The finance committee did meet tonight for a few minutes and talked to us about, we haven't had a chance to meet for negotiations since I think May. So we wanted to make sure level set and we have a meeting tomorrow on negotiations. Can't meet. So, with this one conversation. Anything anybody have any questions? So we had conversation, Kate asked about, at the board meeting a little bit about, with Superintendent Thompson being interim superintendent, about also having somebody lead negotiations that, with the, I think, 26 new legislative changes there that could help us forward in those negotiations. So we reached out to Margaret Sutton. I think we've discussed this before. Margaret will be there to engage in the process. Any questions? Okay. With that, we'll move on to see anything for policy.
Nope, that will be one on Zoom.
And then student activities.
Student activities met earlier this month. We primarily talked about a few Schedule C positions, some that we're not using and some that students are in need of. And so I know that Dr. Thompson was going back and figuring out how we might be able to make something work for students this year for a couple different positions. So that's administration still working through that.
Anything for student activities? And Zed, has not met this week.
I was unable to attend last week's meeting, but Kate graciously offered to attend in my absence, and so I will allow her to give that report. Invite her to give that report.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity, so I didn't mind Amy being gone. They were a really good group, very personable and welcoming, so that was wonderful. The big piece on their agenda was that there was a lease agreement that got pushed. It got striked, so all we approved was some new hires, but we got a great update from Patrick Gordon, the executive director. He talked about a lot of what they've been up to, and then we also saw a presentation by Becky Wheeler, that is one of the leaders over there, about how they collaborate with other districts to see what they're doing and what they can integrate at different age ranges, and so it was very informative and very impressive.
One thing also to keep on your radar is Zed is looking to move forward with potentially getting their own diploma, which would be their own graduation requirements. That is something that each district is still discussing, and Zed is hoping to move forward with that in the next month or so. So I will be meeting with Mr. Langmo and Dr. Thompson to kind of figure out what's going to work best for our district. Us requiring 28 credits to graduate, where there are some districts that require the 24, 25 credits. But then the challenge being that there are classes that, we may offer or another school may offer that doesn't have anybody to teach. So what do we do in those situations? And so if anybody has any specific questions that they would like me to ask about that, or any specific thoughts, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will make sure that gets brought up when I meet with Dr. Thompson and Mr. Langamo, and then again when we meet with Sept and talk about it.
Amy, would this be a situation where, is this moving towards students maybe going to just graduate to then, or graduate to the home school?
So that's the idea as it was presented to us initially is that the student will have a choice whether or not they want to get their diploma from Zed or whether they would want to get it from their home district. Now, it would be fewer credits than KM requires, and so the thought then might be that would students choose to graduate from Zed knowing that it's fewer credits that they would have to obtain? So that's one of those challenges that we need to discuss.
We talked about at our superintendent says it's a complicated situation because each one of the schools has a different schedule. We have blocks, some schools have 7 period days, some people have 8 period days, some 6. And so the credit situation swings back and forth. I think most of the superintendents were concerned about students graduating early. And so that was a big consideration that'll come up, and I think they're gonna have a meeting, like you said, also with the high school principals as well, because they haven't met with them yet. So that was another thing.
Another thing that consideration with that is the home districts have the programming to make sure that each student has the exact requirements that we require. And so it's almost foolproof. However, when you have a consortium like that, they don't have that. And so there's a lot of human error potential in that. And so they have, staff who spend a bulk of their time going through each student and making sure that this class fits that requirement. And there's always that chance that they're not getting the appropriate requirement, which I can appreciate until someone who has a great technology background can figure out a solution for that or what else to do.
The other thing I was just going to mention is that joint powers agreement has a soft date for the end of October.
Yes, thank you. That was something I'm going to look at, talking about. We want that by the end of October if possible. Some schools have already approved it, but we haven't talked about it.
And Kent has sent it out to everyone, and I have received no comments to date or questions. So there's still a time frame until the next Zed meeting.
Anything else for Zed? Okay, moving on to community ed. Ms. Richards, anything for us?
Yeah, we had a community education advisor council meeting recently as well. A couple of highlights. The nature-based program that we have in our elementary school is running a pilot in our preschool programming as well. It's starting in November, so we're actually in that classroom. We got to see all their orange little outdoor deer hanging in their cubbies, and I was so excited about that. We have 8 young learners registered in that program it's a 3-day-a-week preschool program, and we anticipate with the high demand that we've had at our elementary school that we'll see that preschool program continue to grow as well for a nature-based setting. The community education has also set a goal that they'll document 500 or more individual positive behaviors by recognizing students through the love and logic framework. So Ashley mentioned that a little bit tonight, and community ed is really starting with that. One of the things they have is a kind comment postcard that they're sending home to families as a positive interaction that maybe happened at school and students haven't shared with their parents as they go home. So I think that was a really cool initiative that they're starting, and I think that will build some great culture in our preschool age students as well. One other thing that we had talked about too was there's going to be a change in the pre-kindergarten licensure requirement. That's going to be coming in July of 2028, but it's something that we need to put on our radar. And when we have an opportunity to advocate to our state legislators about funding this requirement. Currently, only 2 out of our 5 in school readiness have the licensure that they would need to continue teaching teaching, once that pre-kindergarten licensure requirement takes effect in 2028. And so something, again, to keep on our radar. When that goes statewide, I anticipate there's going to be a number of schools across the state who are going to be in the same situation that we currently are. And the last thing is inclusive playground equipment. We're just waiting for that to arrive, but I think that's a great addition to our community, and I'm happy that community education has taken the lead on being able to provide inclusive playground equipment for Kasson-Mantorville students.
Very good. Anything for community education? Okay, then we'll move on to legislative. Mr. Torkelson, anything for us?
I just want to clarify on the personnel meeting. I was present, I just forgot to put a report together, and then I did try downloading the minutes, which you graciously took, and I cannot download those, so I'll get those. Okay. As far as the legislative, also, I was incapacitated a couple of those days, and then I had a conflict on the last day, so I haven't looked at for evenings.
I can help out a little bit with that. Basically, there was MREA, C, and MSBA. Basically, they spent most of the time talking about what their platforms will be for the next legislature session, and basically talking about also about all the legislative changes that have happened and how that affects schools in different programs. So that was pretty much in every different meeting that was. That's what they talked about.
Anything for legislative? All right, then we're on to 3.7, administrative board reports. We have a few board members or admin team here with us. Anything there anybody would like to discuss or bring up?
Just want to thank Lindsay for the new training that we had to do. I was like, okay, this is a great thing that we're having to do training. I think it's been prevalent in my mind, probably with other board members too, when Rochester Public Schools had a pretty significant security breach, and what that would mean for our staff and students. That occurred here, and so thank you for outlining all the steps that you're taking to keep our school district and staff and students up and running.
I just had one question for Josh. There was a picture there for comet ticket. What are those?
So what we do is PIS, which is positive behavior interventions and supports. What we do is when we recognize positive behavior, we reinforce that behavior by giving them comet tickets. And so our core B's be safe, be respectful, be responsible, engaged. So whenever we see a student go above and beyond, students walking down the hall, they drop something, or shoot something up, hold the door, just things above and beyond what we see, we recognize that and then give them a little ticket that they can turn in for candy bar prizes throughout the year. So we do it every week. We get 300, 400 tickets every week. And so it's a bit, even our 8th graders love it. So we get raced down there to go on the Larcy's office. So anything that we can do to reinforce positive behavior, we certainly want to do. So.
Courtney, as you started off the new year, you mentioned a number of great things that have started, but just anything that you want to especially highlight to board this year? This is the first official board meeting.
No,
As our elementary school principal.
I think probably the highlight was I called them coffee with Courtney and offered to meet with everybody for 30 minutes. I would say I think total over like 90% of the teachers came in before school, like it wasn't required, and now I've met with them. But I just had questions I asked, and the number one question I asked is, why do you stay, why KMES? Like, what about it? The number one response on every single person was the people. The staff, the students, and the community was number one. It wasn't even close. So I think that was just really powerful to know that. And we talked a lot about, like, what do we need to do? And it kept coming up, like, we just need to keep building our culture. So that is our focus this year. We keep saying we're gonna, we've got to water the roots and we got to feed the roots so that the rest. So we're really focusing on the test scores, the academics that we've always focused on, but this year we're really building in some culture. We are doing, every teacher's teaching social emotional learning every single day. And we're starting to see some of that language drive through, because we really think if we can take care of those, maybe that extra push we need to be 75 across the board is gonna come. So it's just super exciting. Jess Marquardt and Jess Meeker, coming on new into roles with me. We all three came in together. They are top-notch, phenomenal instructional leaders. I could not have asked for two better, phenomenal ladies to work with every day. They're just jumping in, like, we all just kind of, we just kind of jumped in. Courtney and the Jessicas were just like, here we go. But it's just been really great. The teachers have been amazing at just giving grace where grace is needed as new leadership comes in, and also really encouraging new ideas and new thoughts. So it has been fast, and all of our new hires are just, we could KMES lucked out. They are awesome people. We're just so lucky to have them. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Courtney, I have a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
What is the most challenging thing you've run into?
Probably, so honestly, some of the legislature with like the discipline, trying to get all that put together. How do we handle these big behaviors that are happening? And we can't do what's always been done, and families are kind of expecting what's always been able to be done. So that's been a big challenge. I think every principal's board I go on, everything I go on, everybody's feeling that same, like the honeymoon period ended, now what do we do? We've got a whole bunch of kids that have big feelings and big behaviors, and we have to keep them in the classroom, and how do we give our teachers that support? We are super lucky that Morgan Cody still loves being at KM as much as she does, because she's in our hallways all the time, so I can bounce ideas off of her. But that has been the biggest challenge, is just like, how do we handle this in a new framework and not getting that exclusionary, get them reset. So we're really excited for the RCD in October to have a framework. Lisa Torgerson is doing her doctorate on restorative practices, so she's kind of become my go-to, like, okay, we can't do this, now what do we do? So it's been it's challenging, but I'm seeing benefits in that their kids are resetting and getting back to their classrooms really quick, because we're giving them the safe space and the words and those to do that.
Awesome, thank you.
Just one quick question for Jenny. I see your numbers, for your enrollment this year. How are those comparing the school readiness project kids versus previous years' goal numbers?
Absolutely. Project Beginning, our infant toddler program continues to be a very, very high demand. So I did not put a list number on, but I can give you those if you would like. So those ones are booked out for months and months, probably the next year. So we're getting a lot of new mamas when they just find out they're expecting their colonists. So that's a good problem. Project Kids is a very, very steady thing with last year. We actually got some more school agers in this year, and then every fall we kind of have to replenish the preschoolers as they go to kindergarten. So because our infant toddler program we don't have more than 2 classrooms, so we don't have enough to totally replenish, but we get a lot of community members that switch over because they want their child in school readiness and they like having everything all in one building. So very comparable. Really good special education is starting at 14. They usually by the end of the year get pretty high. So it's always a slower start just based on the referral process there. Quite a few in speech, and then school readiness is a little bit lower than we have been, which is kind of interesting. But we did add a couple, we added 1 extra section, 2 extra sections this year. So the class sizes, instead of being so high, they were at like 18 before, they're at 16, which is what we used to do a couple years ago. It's better for our kids, really, for the instructional side and the overstimulation and those things. So we're seeing really good results, but it is a little bit lower than that.
Thank you.
Hey Jenny, what's your vision for that high demand program that you're talking about? Is that something that we're going to work to meet that demand, or are you kind of sitting secure where you are?
That's a great question. I think that depends on the school district's vision of what early childhood looks like, for our district. Obviously, a big factor is space. We really can't add any more currently with what we have, and if elementary school is continuing to grow a little bit more than we thought now that the class sizes are growing again, that's not one I'm gonna talk about, so.
Thank you.
Anything else for administrators? Okay, thank you guys, thanks for coming. With that, I'll try this again. With that, we are on
To 3.8, interim superintendent Thompson's communication.
First of all, I'd like to thank the admin team for their reports. Appreciate that. I know the board appreciates that too. And just to let you know, I did not go to the elementary today with my suit on. I was afraid of the different titles that I might acquire from last time. As acquired Joe Biden and the mayors of Mantorville and Kasson. So I thought I'd better be staying around the office today. So anyway, please take out the Power of Positive team. We'll be looking at this as our book study, and we'll probably take on these kind of meetings. We'll do one chapter, and the other special meetings will look to 2 chapters. And Mark, we won't call on you tonight, okay, because you just got yours, and we're glad to see that you're here. Hopefully that surgery went well and everything. We won't take a lot of time, but it's kind of an introductory, but I'd like to have you turn to page 3 first. In the prologue, and I know I didn't have you read that chapter, but I just want to have you look at that, the very, very first 3 sentences. No one creates success alone. We all need a team to be successful. We are better together, and together we accomplish great things. I think that's the essence of the whole book. And as we look through this, it's going to be important to kind of always go back to those 3 sentences in what we're doing here as a team. So that's very important. In this book, I want you to know is that, it's aligned. We're doing it with the school board, we're doing it with the admin team, and we're doing it with the PLC leaders. So we're aligning the same book for everybody in the district. And I think that's important as well too. And just to let you know, I don't have to facilitate. If you guys want to facilitate, you're more than welcome. In the admin team, everybody's going to kind of take a chapter of the admin team, brings things to the table. So that's kind of how we're doing it with that as well. There's some other things in the prologue as well, but I think that was very, very important 3 sentences that you have. But on chapter 1, the power of positive talks a lot about the power of positive, why it's so important for us to be positive. I'd like to have you look at page 10, and there's a couple things in there I want to point out to you. Page 10, the power of positive energy you share with your team is significant. That was a very, very important sentence in there as well. So another one there, positivity leads to winning. I think that's important too, because we're all looking to be a winner as we go through this. On page 11, looking to positive teams don't happen by accident. I think that's important too. If you look at it, 1, 2, 3 or 4, a paragraph down. Positive teams don't happen by accident. They happen when team members invest their time and energy to create a positive culture. And we heard culture being talked about a couple times already. Again, culture is one thing that we're looking to increase throughout the district. Every single building's looking at culture. Again, something that we want to align all the way from the board to the admin team to the buildings all the way down. So we're looking at alignment of these kind of things. I think that's very important. Also, on page 11, positive teams commit to the mission and to each other. Another thing that's very important is commit to our vision, which is our mission statement, and to each other. On page 12, people on positive teams pursue pursue each other and always strive to get better and make their teams better. So that's important. Pursue excellence and always strive to get the teams and themselves better. And the last sentence there, I think, is important too. Because they care more, they do more, they invest more, they commit more, and they accomplish more. So as we look working together as a team, those things are very, very important. And as we go forward, we just kind of keep these things in the back of our mind. So any comments that you might have?
I really liked how it talked about it being an investment of time and energy. I mean, I think I always knew that, but calling it that, and you know, just like you're going to invest in anything. And with coaching, you know, I invest so much in my players and in their families, and that's not just on the court. That's, you know, on the Sunday afternoon when I'm writing up the emails and stuff. And so I think with school board, that made me realize, am I giving the investment that I should be giving, that I've committed to giving? So I mean, I feel like I've invested, but then how much have I really invested in proportion to the work that we're doing? This is big work. This is good work. And so that investment, you know, it's big and it should be. I really appreciated how it kind of called that out.
I appreciated how they talked about positivity not being Pollyanna-esque, right? And I think sometimes there's that perception, right, that if you're positive, that maybe you are not a realist at the same time. And I liked where it said, they are about real optimism, vision, purpose, and unity that make teams great. Positive teams confront the reality of challenging situations and work together to overcome them. So that was one of my big takeaways for chapter.
I really appreciated the extra work stuff on the side of it about what the current situation is and how to build positivity and then how to build that into the culture. And it was just interesting because I also read a separate book that they kind of mixed together, and one of the things in the other book was that excellence is a habit. It's multiple times you're choosing the right thing, the thing with most integrity, even if it's a hard thing, over and over. So it's nice how they fell in line together, because that's what builds a culture too, right? Is the choices that we make over and over.
Just a little bit, you might have read other books by John Gordon. He's written several good books, and The Energy Bus was another book that he had written back in, I think, 2008 or something like that. And he also has another book, The Power of Positive Leadership, which also we're going to be doing with the administrative team as well. But I mean, you read his stuff, it's good stuff, and it's always bestseller stuff.
Back to, I think you referenced it, Dr. Thompson, positive teams commit to the mission and to each other. Instead of serving themselves, they serve others. And for me, it's sort of, life is a do-it-yourself project. You can be positive or you can choose not to be. And those decisions you make about how you're going to approach things, if you choose to be positive about them, life will be pretty good for you. And the reverse is also true. So for me, I think
Thank you. Yeah, we'll keep going through this book. Like next time, then we'll have chapters 2 and 3. And so I wanted to get through the book before Christmas time. So hopefully we'll get through it a little bit faster than that. And some of the chapters are a little shorter. Some of them are 20 pages, but they're in that realm. So keep going on this theme.
So it's next time October 2nd?
Yes. Yeah.
Making sure I'm
Yeah.
knowing my expectations.
That's great. You have homework.
We're gonna have homework.
Like I told the administrative team, no more Mr. Nice Guy. So, all right, well, thank you. Appreciate it when everybody can participate. So, The next thing in bullet, I just want to talk about, we've talked with Barb Dorn and doing some things as far as a potential timeline for having a new superintendent. So these are some kind of things I want to have you think about. She's going to come and talk to us and give some at the next meeting, some information. I asked her to do a proposal as well, so hopefully she'll talk a little bit about the MSBA process, and what she's doing. Obviously, the MSBA is your organization. There are other different firms out there that do things like this, but they are much more expensive. And I think, you're already paying dues to MSBA. I think you should probably use part of this, but, that's something to think about. And I think it'll be good for you to listen to what Barb has to say. I have to kind of take myself out of the gear here because I do this. I work with MSBA. I do superintendent searches when I'm not doing interims, I guess. So that is something, but I know what we do, and I think they do a good job. The other thing is, if the person doesn't work out after the first year, they do it free for you the next time. So that's something to think about. But anyway, so we have October 2nd, then potentially October 23rd to approve, if you don't approve it that night, so you have a little time to ask questions. November 6th, I've already put her down for hiring the right superintendent. So whether you take MSBA or not, I think it's important to have that seminar. It'll be very good for you to be a part of that. And if you do hire them, then it's free to you. Then sometime there has to be in November, another meeting that you have to set up. And that's a really, really important meeting. The planning meeting is really important because that's when you and that's going to be 2.5 to 3 hours. And that's the meeting that you set up the brochure. And that's important, and because you're going to pick some key characteristics that you want in the new superintendent. And that's very important because that's going to go in the brochure. So when candidates look, they want to see what you want to see if they're going to be a fit or not. There's also going to be a lot of information on there about the community. There'll be a lot of information about the school. There's be a lot of statistics and facts, finances, and all those kind of things. Also, there'll be usually there's a little sentence or something about expectations for salary and those kinds of things as well. So those are some things that we'll have to set out because we want to get that done because I think you need to start posting in December. You want to get the posting out before winter break. And then it's usually posted through MSBA Winter Conference. Because that way there might be some potential candidates that might want to ask questions. We get the word out there and those kind of things. So that's that this year. It's a little bit earlier than normal, but that'd be something. Usually they have a 4 to 6 week posting. And then after that, then you'd have, you start getting into the vetting of the candidates. And then, which will be at the end of January, beginning of February. And then you have the interviews in February. And hopefully have somebody hired by March, offered anyway, by the end of March or before, and sometime in the February, March area. And then, that person would start July 1st. So I just kind of wanted to go through that so you know that that's you can change it, but I just want to get it started because I don't want you behind the 8 ball here, because it's going to be potential to have 30, 40 openings. And so I'd like to have us be at the front end of that if we possibly could. So, and Barb will talk more about this as well. But, I've talked about with her, and that's kind of the plan that she thought would be a good one. And because, you guys have the first chance at these people. Normally what would happen is that they'll bring to you 6 candidates. We'll have probably 8, but we'll bring 6 because sometimes a person gets a job at a different place to fill one in. And then the big question will be for you that she's going to ask you, I want you to start thinking about is, how much input are you going to want from the staff and the community? You don't have to answer the question now. I just want you thinking about that because that's going to be a big question. MSB has different levels according to the input that you take from the staff and the community. And so that's going to be a question Barb's going to ask you, and we'll have some discussion on that, but that'll be an important question as to which level that you would be at. So, again, tentative, but at least I want you to know that there's a plan in place here as we move forward. So, any questions that you might have? If you do,
For delineating that plan.
yeah, we're ready to roll. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be ready to roll. So, because I'm sure, there's gonna be community members that might be asking, or staff members that, you can say, yeah, we got a plan in place, not exactly in all the dates, but we're gonna be ready to roll.
Very helpful. Thank you.
I will not be here at the Monday's meeting, but I trust that if the board does make a decision to move forward with MSBA, I support your decision.
Can I add one more thing? Is that Barb indicated she's gonna try and get me the proposal ahead of time, so I'll try to send that out. If I get it ahead of time, I'll try to send that out to you, so that you can have a chance to look at it. And you'll see that there'll be different levels depending on how much community input that you want from them.
Okay, anything for Dr. Thompson? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to 4, public input, and we do have one item for public input. Jody Lawson would like to speak. Jody, if you want to come down here on her perspective on some issues here. So, thank you, Jody. Appreciate it.
Way outside my comfort zone. I reached out to the board and I was told that MSBA prefers that I should be here. I would have rather done it in a group with you, but, so I'm trying to keep as little of, not mixing teacher and community as much as probably I would like. But anyways, first of all, for me, coming to board meetings is really hard because what we hear isn't always what we feel, and that's the perception you get, and that's all that you hear, and that's what you go with. For me, the August school board meeting was breaking point, not just as a teacher, but as a female. Ethically, I didn't feel like to say stay silent any longer. Teachers spend a lot of time teaching workforce skills, getting along, communicating. Just to go into a public forum, especially school one, and watch one member badger another member. It was kind of frustrating and irritating that we try to teach these kids how to act in public, and then given your position, it's nation to happen. And I wonder if the person who was being targeted was a male, if this would happen, to be honest. I also wonder why, or what you guys thought when no current or former admin teacher spoke on behalf of the former superintendent. Like, didn't that kind of raise a red flag for you? And I wanted to even take conversation, and of course we can't have it. So, I guess when I was kind of doing some research, MSBA's code of ethics is that you're to listen to opinions and views of others, including but not limited to other school board members, administration, staff, students, and community members. So when the superintendent, behind closed doors, calls teachers derogatory names, or says we're lazy, or says we're not loyal, maybe you should be asking how effective your leader is. And I thank Dr. Thompson, this has been a great start to the new year. You're trying to get the board to work as a team, not only I hope with the board, but also with us. I just hope come January that vision sticks. I really don't want to go back to what we had. As far as, I'm out, like, every time we come to a board meeting, we hear how it's your job to be fiscally responsible. We were told that we should look at our budgets to figure out how we can afford health insurance. And I'm wondering if you guys do the same. You can't have a school without teachers, so it should just be in your budget that you budget for us, right? And then, like, I feel like everything we do is maybe needs or our wants come before our needs. I could go into a lot of detail, but and now that you have these cards, I'm hoping some of you will come to the elementary school, see what we need, see what we don't have, see what's working in our school, not just this beautiful building. I don't know, I just have a lot of anxiety. This is my last year here, and it's time someone speaks up. Another thing that I've been here 28 years, and it's always been the same. There's this animosity between board members and the union. The union is not your enemy. Unions were brought up or came about because of the working conditions, the poor pay, the long hours. And just because you're not part of the union, you are benefiting from us being in the union. My dad worked at IBM, retired from IBM, and he always said he would have not had the pay he had, the retirement he had it not been for unions. He wasn't a union employee, but because of unions around him, they got more pay, better working conditions. So you're reaping the benefit of our union. Like, it shouldn't be this animosity. We should be working as a team to do what's best for us. We're not asking to be millionaires. We're asking for a little bit more than a cost of living raise each year. I don't think that's a lot to ask for. And I know this is probably, I don't know, there's like 2 weeks ago in church, one of the intentions was pray for those who can't forgive and forget. And I wish I could forgive and forget. But I also saw a bumper sticker that's when I was kind of getting upset about this. And so thank you, Amy and Kate. Women who, some of them read it, well-behaved women rarely make history. So I thank you for speaking up and getting things to change. I don't think without people speaking up, things don't change. You can't just like sit here and have no conversation or ask questions. Like, just agreeing with one person doesn't mean that's best for everybody. And I hope with Dr. Thompson's leadership that you will like change your thinking, change your feeling about us and teachers. And I just wonder if, I mean, this has been going on not just during your time, but I remember back in the 90s when I first started and we were ready to go on strike. And I wonder what would happen if we did. Would you understand how much you need us? Would we be respected more by the community? Because if you don't respect us, the community doesn't respect us. So I'm hoping that with Dr. Thompson's leadership, the board will change its feelings about us and we'll have a more team effort, not just between administration, but the whole, from administration all the way down to the janitorial staff. So with that, thank you, Dr. Thompson, for bringing a positive leadership to our school board. And I'm hoping that some of you will come visit our school and see what we are thinking. And thank you, Kate. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jody. Okay. With that, we are on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Thanks, Brandon. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Angie. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, state aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we are on to action items. There is no old business. New business, 6.2.1, approve the 22-23 staff development budget and plan. Do we have a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Thanks, Kate. And the second? Thanks, Patrick. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of 23-24 2024 staff development budget and plan, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We're on to 6.2.2, approve the 23 pay 24 preliminary proposed property tax levy that you have in front of you. Do we have a motion to approve that? Thanks, Brandon. And a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Kate. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the 23 pay 24 preliminary proposed property tax levy, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And we're on to 6.2.3, approve the proposed 2023 bond referendum or refunding resolution that we heard from Jeff tonight. Do we have a motion to approve the bond refunding resolution?
I move to approve.
Thanks, Angie. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Patrick. Any discussion on that?
I just had a quick thing. I know Mr. Seeley, he did mention that as far as trying to predict interest rates, that the economy is a big driver. We do actually have data on what particular parties in power during those times of increased interest rates and decreasing the rates. And actually, some countries that we won in the Fed when it's independent, other than two Democratic administrators, interest rates with Republicans have went down. I would recommend waiting until January, at minimum January 25, before we take a look at this. We don't need to start at the slot. That's my recommendation.
This is all based off of, obviously, with the future basis points that they're very good.
What's the percentage split for what's going to be made what could be signed now versus the others? It's almost half. And even with this resolution, it's still be able to back out before it went to rating.
Make a motion tonight, because it gives us the opportunity. If we don't make it tonight, then we don't have an opportunity, because as you mentioned, we have to go through two more board meetings.
It would be a plausible.
Right, so this sets the wheels in motion, and we can always stop them at any point without requiring any additional cost.
Any other? Again, we will be looking at this in a few days. So we have a motion, a second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the approving the 2023 bond refunding resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Aye. Approved. We are on to 6.2.4, annual approval of assurance of compliance with the state and federal prohibiting discrimination. So we have the Title IX coordinator, Ashley Kaplan, District Human Rights Officer, Lisa Snow, Section 504 Accommodation Coordinator, Chris France, Lindsay Campbell, and Lisa Snow, and ESSA point of contact. Do we have a motion to approve the assurance compliance?
I'll make that motion to approve the insurance compliance with the state federal law.
Brittany? Any discussion on
We do this after the year.
Yes.
the annual?
And now that I have it approved, I submit it to you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the assurance and compliance with state and federal law prohibiting discrimination, say aye. All same sign, the motion is carried. Action items, informational items.
7.1, school board meeting, 6 PM Monday, October 9th, high school committee forum room. Next regular school board meetings is 7 PM Monday, October 23rd, also in the committee forum room. And 7.3, the board will be entering a closed session for a hearing pursuant to Minnesota statutes 122A.33. So we'll be closing this meeting for a few minutes here.
7.1 is that October 2nd or October 9th?
Oh, shoot, October 2nd.
Okay.
And I will not be present.